What's up guys, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you through the Chaos OS and how I'm planning to use this as a tool for me to actively shape the future in terms of what we're actively building and how to go about that. And the mission for this and the reason why I'm doing this is to basically show you guys how we're building raw and real, basically taking you through the entire process, my thought process, my frameworks, and just to reference into the future. Maybe things change or we get new ideas, just basically to lay down the foundations of how I was thinking in this present moment in time and how we were actively solving problems and just documenting that. And the second one is to basically solve big messy problems, or basically to solve what hurts. I did change this up a little bit, but yeah, to solve big problems that we can actively break down into small actionable steps and just solve those problems. And I want to show you guys how we're actively coming up with frameworks, coming up with decision making tools to basically solve those problems as we're building the infrastructure or back end systems that we're implementing for our clients. And also just to call in the visionaries, basically people that we can network with and help us grow, and also that we can also provide value to help them grow, and just build a community of people, of like-minded people that share the same vision and share the same journey as well, and just basically to help build the future. And my plan basically to do this is into 5 actionable steps, like I always do. The first one being hunt to find the real problems. And the reason why I'm obsessed with this is because wedding pros are drowning. Either vendor flakes, schedule clashes, hours vanish, and that's the fight that I want to be with, or the fight that I want to help. Essentially, what we're building out is mainly built in order to help solve problems. Vendors flaking, in terms of scheduling conflicts and building tools that actually enable our clientele to basically 10x what they're doing right now within their business through efficient processes that basically streamline their entire process. And how I'm building this is by listening deep, by asking business owners, hey, what is the worst chaos that you're having within your business, and then getting feedback from that. And that's why I am a big believer from my previous videos on building feedback loops, because with feedback loops you're able to get data, and from that data you're able to move more tactically and also agile, and you're able to be more agile in terms of how you're building out things. And if you're not actively listening to the people that you're solving those problems for, how are you going to build the best possible solution for those people if you don't understand what their root problem is? And that just comes down to asking the right questions and constantly just probing in on how can you improve the service that you're providing, or the problems that you're solving. How can you adapt certain tools and patch them together, or not necessarily patch them together, but come up and see patterns within other tools and systems, and then implement that in a specific niche or what you basically building out. And with this is also to dig in, basically to shadow their ops, basically saying, hey, you use WhatsApp, you have no systems in place, but here's how it would look like if you had systems. Because you constantly, for example, let's say you constantly messaging on WhatsApp and you just looking through messages and you looking for that's not a very efficient process. Or you constantly scrambling through your emails to say, hey, we have a booking at this specific date, how are we going to know what to do? And we basically help streamline that. And that is the reason why I'm actively diving deep into the trenches, trying to figure all this out so that we can be actively able to build the best solution for our clients. And by doing this, we need to start small, which is to build a platform to sync vendors and save time. You don't always have to start big in the initial beginnings, and this is something that I'm also actively learning, that if we just get an MVP or just a simple framework tool that solves the initial problems, and we scale up from that, we can do a lot more. And this is what I'm actively learning. And with this, I like to implement a grounding question into all the frameworks that I do, because I know that asking the right questions ultimately leads you to finding answers that you never thought were there until you ask the question. And this grounding question that I have for this specific part of finding the real problems is, what problem in my world am I overlooking that could change everything for me? And just by asking that, I can then take a deep dive from first principles and say, hey, these are all the criterias of things that I'm looking at, and what from that am I overlooking in a way that it ties together with the solutions that we're building, or how can we combine this problem that we're having with another solution that we have in a completely different field, and just finding the pattern within that and just trying it out and finding what the core problem is. And then the second part would basically be, hey, solve by building what works. And the reason why I'm obsessed with this is generic tools oftentimes miss the mark. For example, Wedding Chaos needs custom fix because sometimes the problems that you're having are unique to you, and not a tool, off the shelf tool, is gonna probably be able to help you with that. And that's where we come in, by coming up with solutions that are super tailored to you and what you're basically building for our clientele. And the reason why I'm doing this is, or how I'm doing this, is prototyping fast by building Airtable dashboards, Make.com automations, and testing them within days, or custom builds. It just basically depends on what criteria fits what we need to build. And this also goes hand in hand with tweaking hard. When the client says needs faster alerts, we get it done by next week. So we basically find the patterns and then we map it out. And then from there, we basically just build out from there and deliver real. So for example, we say, hey, we're working with a business that is generating $10 million in ops, and then we basically help them streamline that, and then the proof works. Although right now we're still super deep into building this, we ultimate goal is to ultimately be able to streamline as much opportunities or business processes as much as possible. And from that, I like to ask a grounding question, which is, how can I solve one problem so well that it reshapes the niche that I'm in? And just by asking that question, I am able to see patterns and ask myself, hey, this problem is what they're actively facing, but what is the one problem that I could solve that redefines how the niche or the people within that niche see problem solving, or how they initially see how they're doing their processes, which ultimately changes their perspective. And by doing that, we're able to understand better and to move into answering the questions that we need to. And from that, we repeat, which is doubling down on the problems. So why I'm obsessed with this is because one fix isn't enough. Every client's chaos teaches me a lot more about how to integrate different tools and platforms into the next project that we're building. And this is the number one thing for me, which is doubling down on problems, because the more problems you're able to fix and the patterns that you pick up from that with feedback loops, the more you can move agile and tactical into the future and see patterns in other solutions that you never thought were there. And how I'm able to do this is by, like I said, building a feedback loop where we basically pull in from Taliso or Airtable, and then we post that feedback, and then we put it in, and then we combine it, and then we say, hey, these are the patterns that we're noticing and how can we improve from that. And then we ask the question of what chaos is still sucks simply because of that feedback that we're getting. For example, we say, hey, maybe user experience isn't that good, and the reason why user experience is not that good is because we've noticed a pattern in the way that we've designed the tools that we have built, that, hey, this niche doesn't like bright colors. And then we say, hey, let's fix this. So what is the opportunity cost that is having on the business? And then we essentially solve for that. And then we iterate, which is added budget alerts for clients 5K leaks. So the number one thing is here just iterating as much as possible and finding out, hey, what can we constantly innovate in, and how can we do this 10x better in V2 over V1. And then we scale solutions. The reason why this is so important is I am a big believer in terms of building the foundations so that you can scale later on into the future. And one business's fix becomes a template for 10 more. Like I just mentioned, like, hey, we fix one problem, we can scale that up into the future by building 10 more solutions by the feedback and how we've learned from the initial problem that we have solved. And from this, I like to ask a grounding question again, which is, what's one lesson from today's problem that could 10x my impact tomorrow, in the sense of how can I 10x what I've done today into tomorrow's build? And that solely just comes from building better feedback loops, iterating, and building for scale. And the reason also why I'm a big believer from this is feedback loops and creating impact ultimately does right by the business owners and for the business, which ultimately creates value. And that is the number one thing that I personally believe in creating as much value as I possibly can for the people that work with us. And from this, we basically, number 4, which is inspire, which is to pull others in. And this is a big one because people build people. And there comes a stage in time where the most valuable asset within your company becomes the people that are within it. And on a daily basis, I'm actively learning that investing more into people and the people that are helping you build is ultimately just going to 10x into the future. So why not just continue to invest in it today? And the reason why I'm obsessed is solving problems alone won't cut it. I need a crew that helps kill chaos and that sees the vision for what it is that we're trying to actively build. And how I'm doing this is sharing raw daily X YouTube videos here what I'm solving problems. So for example, here's what I'm solving and you should come join me. Or if it resonates with you, join me on this mission on what it is that I'm actively trying to solve. And by showing proof of our platform and every pitch that we do is and every platform that we build is ultimately leads to a pitch or a DM from people coming that share the same vision. And the third one is basically to build trust. For example, we can say 100 emails a week to wedding pros. Hey, we see your chaos, and just building that trust in terms of, hey, we've solved this problem for X in this niche. Now let us help you solve your problem in your niche, because we've taken all that feedback, all the iterations, and now we're coming to you to solve your core problem because we understand it best. And the grounding question I like to ask for this is, who needs to hear about my mission and to join the fight? Because like I said, people build people, and the number one thing that I believe in and I'm seeing on an active basis is the more you can build the people that are helping you on your mission, the more you can create value into the future. And dream, the number one thing for me, I save the best for last, is to build for tomorrow. And why I'm obsessed is because today's wedding chaos is one step into tomorrow's aviation and then global ops. So this happens in stages. I believe that the number one thing is just to build in stages, to say, hey, I'm building this platform that we're building, but into the future, what are we going to be building and how are we going to integrate that into the overall ecosystem that we are going to be building out. And how I'm building this is by actively thinking bigger, by thinking how can we scale the systems from one planner to 1,000 planners? How can we better our systems today through feedback loops, iterations, or the people that we have, and just building the people as well? How can we build that for tomorrow, and having all of this as a combination for what it is that we're doing tomorrow that we can do into tomorrow for the future, and just asking those questions and planning ahead. For example, for wedding vaults, we basically create memories, proof of value, and say, hey, this is what we're actively doing, and staying focused, problems over trend. Chaos is my North Star. For me, I like to streamline things and help business owners streamline their processes and help them enable them to do 10x more from what they're doing today. And the grounding question from this is, hey, what future am I building by solving today's problems? And actively asking that question ultimately leads me to ask myself, hey, what is it that I'm building today that I can solve into the future? And also asking the questions of what skill stack am I building today that I can transfer into different industries and also solve problems in those industries. Basically, skill stacking is the thing that I like to think about and integrate into my daily philosophy of life, if you will, into how we're actively building. And I like to share this with the team as well, to say, hey, what we're building now, we're building for the future, and this is how the vision is of what we want to achieve in that. And this is basically how my belief on shaping the future chaos the future Killer Chaos OS is going to be. I mean, I may still be wrong in a lot of these things, and we'll just have to see. But I do believe in this present moment in time that this is the way that I want to approach things, and just be more tactical in terms of how we're building out, and essentially say, hey, into the future, this is how we were viewing things, and into the future say, hey, this is how we're constantly refining the machine and just building what we're building out. Because into the future, we're going to look back on these videos and say, hey, this is the framework that we had, and this is what we're actively building. And I'm super excited to continue to build and refine the Killer Chaos OS, and then just basically just create more value into the future. And yeah, if you guys like the video, just let me know, and let me know if you guys have any comments, and hit me up on any socials if you do have a question or comment, or just to connect. Either or is good with me. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.